The Nile Delta is the delta formed in Lower Egypt where the Nile River spreads out and drains into the Mediterranean Sea. It is one of the world's larger deltas from Alexandria in the west to Port Said in the east. It covers 240 kilometers 150 miles of the Mediterranean coastline and is a rich agricultural region. From north to south the delta is approximately 160 kilometers 100 miles in length. The delta begins slightly downriver from Cairo. From north to south, the delta is approximately 160 kilometers 100 miles in length. From west to east, it covers some 240 kilometers 150 miles of coastline. The delta is sometimes divided into sections, with the Nile dividing into two main distributaries, the Damietta and the Rosetta, flowing into the Mediterranean at port cities with the same names. In the past, the delta had several distributaries, but these have been lost due to flood control, silting, and changing relief. One such defunct distributary is Wadi Tumalat. The Suez Canal is east of the delta and enters the coastal Lake Manzila in the northeast of the delta. To the northwest are three other coastal lakes or lagoons, Lake Burullus, Lake Idku, and Lake Mariout. The Nile is considered to be an arcuate delta, arc-shaped, as it resembles a triangle or flower when seen from above. Aristotle speculated that the delta was constructed for agricultural purposes due to the drying of the region of Egypt. In modern day, the outer edges of the delta are eroding, and some coastal lagoons have seen increasing salinity levels as their connection to the Mediterranean Sea increases. Since the delta no longer receives an annual supply of nutrients and sediments from upstream due to the construction of the Aswan Dam, the soils of the floodplains have become poorer, and large amounts of fertilizers are now used. Topsoil in the delta can be as much as 21 meters 70 feet in depth. People have lived in the Nile Delta region for thousands of years, and it has been intensively farmed for at least the last 5,000 years. The delta was a major constituent of Lower Egypt, and there are many archaeological sites in and around the delta. Artifacts belonging to ancient sites have been found on the delta's coast. The Rosetta Stone was found in the delta in 1799 in the port city of Rosetta, an anglicized version of the name Rashid. In July 2019 a small Greek temple, ancient granite columns, treasure-carrying ships, and bronze coins from the reign of Ptolemy II, dating back to the 3rd and 4th centuries BC, were found at the sunken city of Heracleion, colloquially known as Egypt's Atlantis. The investigations were conducted by Egyptian and European divers led by the underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio. They also uncovered a devastated historic temple, the city's main temple, underwater off Egypt's north coast. In January 2019 archaeologists led by Mustafa Waziri working in the Al-Kalgan area of the Nile Delta discovered tombs from the Second Intermediate Period and burials from the Naqada II era. The burial site contained the remains of animals, amulets, and scarabs carved from faience, round and oval pots with handles, flint knives, broken and burned pottery. All burials included skulls and skeletons in the bending position and were not very well preserved. The first three have dried up over the centuries due to flood control, silting, and changing relief, while the last two still exist today. The delta used to flood annually, but this ended with the construction of the Aswan Dam. About 39 million people live in the delta region. Outside of major cities, population density in the delta averages 1,000/km2, 2,600/sq.mi, or more. Alexandria is the largest city in the delta with an estimated population of more than 4.5 million. Other large cities in the delta include Shubra el-Khima, Port Said, El Mahala el Kubra, Mansoura, Tanta, and Zagazig. Wildlife. During autumn, parts of the Nile River are red with lotus flowers. The lower Nile, north, and the upper Nile, south, have plants that grow in abundance. The upper Nile plant is the Egyptian lotus, and the lower Nile plant is the papyrus sedge, Cyperus papyrus, although it is not nearly as plentiful as it once was, and is becoming quite rare. Several 100,000 water birds spend their winter in the delta, including the world's largest concentrations of little gulls and whiskered terns. Other birds making their homes in the delta include gray herons, Kentish plovers, shovelers, cormorants, egrets, and ibises. Other animals found in the delta include frogs, turtles, tortoises, mongooses, and the Nile monitor. Nile crocodiles and hippopotamus, two animals which were widespread in the delta during antiquity, are no longer found there. Fish found in the delta include the flathead gray mullet and solace. The delta has a hot desert climate, Köppen, BWH, as the rest of Egypt, but its northernmost part, as is the case with the rest of the northern coast of Egypt, which is the wettest region in the country, has relatively moderate temperatures, with highs usually not surpassing 31 degrees Celsius 88 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. Only 100 to 200 millimeters, 4 to 8 in, of rain falls on the delta area during an average year, and most of this falls in the winter months. The delta experiences its hottest temperatures in July and August, with a maximum average of 34 degrees Celsius 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter temperatures normally range from 9 degrees Celsius 48 degrees Fahrenheit at nights to 19 degrees Celsius 66 degrees Fahrenheit in the daytime. With cooler temperatures and some rain, the Nile Delta region becomes quite humid during the winter months. Sea level rise. Egypt's Mediterranean coastline experiences significant loss of land to the sea, in some places amounting to 90 m, 100 yd, a year. The low-lying Nile Delta area in particular is vulnerable to sea level rise associated with global warming. This effect is exacerbated by the lack of sediments being deposited since the construction of the Aswan Dam. If the polar ice caps were to melt, much of the northern delta, including the ancient port city of Alexandria, could disappear under the Mediterranean. A 30 centimeters, 12 in, rise in sea level could affect about 6.6% of the total land cover area in the Nile Delta region. At 1 m, 3 feet 3 in, sea level rise, an estimated 887,000 people could be at risk of flooding and displacement, and about 100 square kilometers 40 square miles of vegetation, 16 square kilometers 10 square miles wetland, 402 square kilometers 160 square miles cropland, and 47 square kilometers 20 square miles of urban area land could be destroyed, flooding approximately 450 square kilometers 170 square miles. Some areas of the Nile Delta's agricultural land have been rendered saline as a result of sea level rise. Farming has been abandoned in some places, while in others sand has been brought in from elsewhere to reduce the effect. In addition to agriculture, the delta's ecosystems and tourist industry could be negatively affected by global warming. Food shortages resulting from climate change could lead to 7 million climate refugees by the end of the 21st century. Nevertheless, environmental damage to the delta is not currently one of Egypt's priorities. The delta's coastline has also undergone significant changes in geomorphology as a result of the reclamation of coastal dunes and lagoons to form new agricultural land and fish farms, as well as the expansion of coastal urban areas. Governorates and large cities. The Nile Delta forms part of these 10 governorates. Alexandria, Behyra, Kafr el-Sheikh, Garbaya, Minyafiya, Kaliabia, Dakalia, Damietta, Sharqiya. Port Said. Large cities located in the Nile Delta. Abusir, Alexandria, Avaris, Bilbis, Bubastis, Canopus, Damanhur, Desuk, Damietta, El Mahala El Kubra, Kafr el-Sheikh, Leontopolis, Mendes, Mit Abu el-Kam, Mansoura, Naucratis, Pelusium, Port Said, Rosetta, Sais, Tanis, Tanta, Zagazig. The Nile Delta is situated in the middle of the Egyptian Mediterranean coastline of approximately 1,000 kilometers. The delta shoreline consists of sandy and silty shores of greatly varying lateral configurations, depending on where the old branches of the Nile had their outlets. It is home to over 50% of Egypt's population of 80 million. The Nile Delta is suitable for intensive agriculture and it supports 63% of the country's agricultural land. The coastline has two promontories, Rosetta and Damietta, and beaches are backed by coastal flats followed by coastal dunes and four brackish shallow lakes, from east to west Mariut, Edku, Barulas, and Manzila. Delta and lakes are economically support both a large fishery and many fish farms. Lake fisheries produce 182,525 tons which represent about 12.54% of the nation's total fish production. Nile Delta is part of one of the world's most important migration routes for birds. Every year, millions of birds pass between Europe and Africa along the East Africa Flyway, and the wetland areas of Egypt are especially critical stopover sites. Delta lakes are threatened by continuous land reclamation projects, construction of roads along the north coast, coastal erosion, soil salinization, extensive land use, pollution and degradation, and lack of appropriate institutional management systems. Nile Delta is subject also to shoreline changes resulting from erosion and accretion, subsidence and sea level rise, SLR, resulting from climate change. Thank you for watching this video.